Now that my scalp is greased, welcome to the Brothers and Sisters podcast. Today is what? April 22nd? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
April 22nd, 2021. We're coming from Baltimore per usual. Walter's in Delaware. Our guest tonight, Teal Inzunza.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you coming from, Teal?
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
I miss Brooklyn.
Autumn and I did some time in Brooklyn. I did a lot of time in Brooklyn. What part?
I'm in Flatbush.
Flatbush. I used to get my hair done in Flatbush.
Flatbush, you don't know.
Flatbush. For sure. Till, you want to talk a little bit about yourself, and then you'll talk about yourself more later when we do our interview?
Sure. I can talk a little bit about myself. So I am a licensed master's social worker. I've been, working in New York City for the past 15 years. I have primarily worked with homeless New Yorkers, including survivors of domestic violence and LGBTQ individuals. I work with issues around trauma and economic empowerment. I do a lot of economic justice work. I care about a lot of different issues, but I don't know. I don't know what else I should say, but that's sort of an overview.
That was good. That was really good. Okay. So we know exactly where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Sean just disappeared, but we'll work through that.
I'm here.
Nicole and Lindsay are here. What's happening,
Hey, Sean's here. We don't see him, but we can hear him.
Oh, there's his hand.
There's his hand, yeah.
There's his hand. That works. The question is, am I going to be too lazy to edit this out? It's like a 50-50 proposition. It really is. I might just let this roll. Anyway, we are, 2 days after the verdict of George Floyd, Derek Chauvin being convicted on all 3 counts, second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and I think a manslaughter charge also. To be honest, I'm surprised. I'm elated. A lot of racists are very upset. There was a string of things that happened over the past couple of days that have really inflamed some racists.
I haven't seen my racist Facebook friends popping up saying much lately. Where have you seen it at?
Yeah. Well, I mean, post-Trump, I think January 6th kind of sort of hurt a lot of those people in the sense that, it wasn't like a joke anymore. It was like, we're all seeing this on TV. That looks real bad. I don't know if I want to be a part of that. A lot of people are erasing their where they were.
It became undeniable that you were full of shit because it's the same people I remember so butthurt about a CVS on Pennsylvania Avenue didn't give a shit about the halls of Congress. You know what I'm saying? Getting the same destruction shit on the floors. You know what I mean? So it is what it is.
I will never forget walking by that, Sean, and I think we were, I don't know if we were both in New York or you were up there for some reason and we both came down to Baltimore. I don't know. I just remember, anyway, and we walked around and it was I remember people were like, oh my God, are you okay? Not here, but just when we went down, it's seems like it's all right. And we walked by to the fucking CVS, North Avenue. It's this is it? This was the extent of people's aghast, emotional, oh my God, how could they do this? A CVS that I guess
that is fully insured.
Kind of sort of emblematic of the problem, right? A lack of understanding of how things actually work in these communities. And T, I know you work in these communities, are part of the community. I think the lack of rising, upset a lot of racists. And I think that turned into it became the threat of rioting kind of sort of made the outcome somehow tainted or somehow illegitimate. But of course, a grim reminder of where we were, what happens immediately afterwards, right? Nakia Bryant, right? We're still in the midst of Dante, right?
Mm-hmm.
Walter, you reminded me today of Casey
Casey Goodson. Yeah.
game.
Casey Goodson. Yeah.
Goodson, right? Man.
I'm not that surprised about,
Like they're on a tear after the verdict and shit. It's like,
and I'm not surprised about the verdict because I think, I don't know, you know how sometimes, like for example, we'll complain that Black people aren't getting any Oscar nominations, they're not getting an Oscar. And then it's like, okay, here, we nominated you, one of you guys got one. Are you happy now? I think that's what happened with Derek Chauvin. I think he like their sacrifice. Like, all right, you got one.
We'll give you this one.
We'll give you this one.
I don't know.
I mean,
Oh,
I
no.
was shocked. I think there was some post somewhere that was like, there hasn't been a cop convicted in Minnesota in like 20 years.
Wow.
Something like that, like, or 15, 16 years. So I was I mean, I think the trial, there was a lot of cops testifying against him, which I was also shocked about. But, like things never go the way you think they're going to go. And people never seem to vote against cops. So I was shocked, but it was an interesting moment.
You can read it in his eyes, like the difference he had, like the confidence he had, video when he was killing Floyd, and the confusion on his face and the verdict.
When he got the verdict, he definitely was surprised. I think he honestly thought that he was going to get off, which is why
kind of looking like, are they talking about me?
Yeah,
like
which
that's
is why
the impression I looked that I saw on his face.
I was in a place where there was no way, with all the evidence that we saw, that he was going to walk. There was no way. I just didn't see it plausible. It was different than when Terrence Crutcher got shot, right? It was different than when Philando Castile got shot. And I just think that seeing him kneel on the guy's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, that's what did it. Because like so many lawyers are saying, okay, great. At what point is it enough?
Yeah.
8 minutes and 10 seconds, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. And you kind of play that all the way along.
Like, even if there is video, if there's any gray area where they can inject that I was fearful shit, they will, but there was no room for that here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
What I think is interesting, and I heard, obviously, I immersed myself in what people on the right were saying and thinking, because that's just how I get down. Autumn said something about here, you can have this or whatever. And there was a dude, Greg Gutfeld on Fox, who was like, he was happy about the verdict because he was worried about what was going to happen if it was not guilty, or if he was acquitted on a charge, whether he was guilty or not. And of course, he was admonished for saying that it's supposed to be about, the justice system and how things work.
Right.
There's a large part of me that actually agrees with that. I almost want there to be there has to be some sort of, not mob rule or mob justice, but the continuance of the status quo when it comes to these things. Like, it has to be known that there's going to be hell to pay. Like, if what continues to happen, happens. And I think that was more palpable with this. Like, we saw the media reports of they're boarding up, businesses, like, police forces nationwide and cities are getting, right? There was going to be hell to pay.
I got an alert on my phone from my company. Like pending the outcome of the trial, pretty much like, written in a professional way, but pretty much like, be on alert and brace yourself.
Yeah. I know justice is supposed to be blind and all of that good stuff, but I felt that, like, I think we all did, and it was like, okay. I think that actually added to some of the apprehension, because it's not that you don't it's not that we shouldn't fight these things. It's that you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to be the next victim when it's just, people in the streets, which is why, again, I was for the BLM riots this summer, not only because I support BLM, because there were all these white foot soldiers. That normally doesn't, it confounds cops. Like, if you're a cop and you show up to an event and, it's non-white people and white people, you go after the non-white people. That's very easy to decipher. When you got white people fighting white people, like, it's tough. And then there are complaints of the cops just stood back and let it happen. And like, yeah, on one hand, that is organizational, dysfunction. But on the other hand, it's straight confusion. That's kind of sort of like the Capitol riot also. Like, we've heard our senators say, like, they were prepared for anti-Trump riots. We now know there was a call to look out for anti-Trump rioters during the Capitol riot. Just reinforcing the fact that they never would have expected this from Trump supporters. So I think relief, not only because the right thing was done, but relief because, there was going to be unrest if this turned out the wrong way. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You just don't know which way that's going to go.
I agree. But then, like you mentioned, like, we can't even have 24 hours worth of peace.
No.
And we find out a girl is shot by the cop.
So that's it's a challenging one. The young lady in Ohio, right? You watched the video, it was very evident that she had a knife and she was about to stab the other girl. If you were that other girl's parent, what would you want?
Where's the pepper spray?
What would you?
Where's the taser? Like,
So,
you don't have to you don't have to shoot anybody. I wouldn't want the other girl to get shot. I would want someone to come in and diffuse the situation. But there are so many things you can do.
Of course.
I would not want anyone
that they've been trained to do.
Right. And
if
if
they've been trained to do it.
Girl's parents, I don't want another kid to die. I want you to come in and de-escalate. I mean, you're a cop in a bulletproof vest. You can't handle a teenager with a gun. Why do you even have that job?
That's where I am.
You gotta have that job.
Listen,
you gotta be able to handle the teenage girl with the knife.
Other than killing a kid.
Not to be an asshole, but yeah, you don't die immediately off stabbing. I don't know. It takes, it's harder to kill somebody stabbing them.
There's just so many things you can do. I mean, like, I talked to my mom about it. She's a teacher. My mom was like, I saw that situation.
Yeah.
If that had been between two of my students, she was like, I could have gone in and handled that and would have come away not stabbed.
But remember that it wasn't just her and that other girl. It was 3 other girls.
She called the cops.
And man.
Didn't the girl with the knife call the cops?
For help.
That's what I was
told.
Because of those
the cops, so they have no idea what was about to happen to her before she pulled that knife out.
Exactly.
All we know is when the cop came, she was lunging toward the girl with the knife. I'm playing the devil's advocate only because there is 2 sides to what's going on, and
the other side, I don't think it's still not a good enough argument for how they.
It's not really relevant, but you still don't know a situation when you're just walking into it.
Of course.
Yeah, regardless of what that situation is, a gun.
Regardless of what it was.
Yeah, I mean, you got a video of white dudes chasing the police with knives. And
Agreed.
Yeah, that's
got
right.
white guys running over cops. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I can only tell you that she had a knife and she was getting ready to stab that other little girl. It was about to happen.
And that's.
There's no but. But see, there's no but.
There is a but. The but is there's no need for a gun.
That's where I am.
There's no need for a gun in that situation at all. What is a 15-year-old girl really gonna do with a knife that's so serious that you had to kill her?
She could have killed the other little girl.
Had that been a white girl with a knife against a black girl, would it have been the same outcome?
Don't know. I doubt it.
Definitely would not have been.
But what I do know,
like, things are applied to people. Like, it's not like we're not given the benefit of the doubt, like, ever.
Sure. Absolutely. And that's why Dante Wright got killed, and that's why Terrence Crutcher and Philando Castile and Tamir Rice. That's why they all got killed. I certainly agree. I'm just saying, in this isolated situation, that this young lady had a lethal weapon and was getting ready to use it against another human being. The police officer's job is to defuse the situation in the best way that he sees fit, given the totality of the evidence that's in front of him. All he saw was somebody about to die, so he stopped it.
I don't like watching videos. So what was the warning?
I didn't watch it.
There was none. There was no warning.
Well, then
And
that's
how-
part of the job.
and-
Part of the
and-
job is a warning.
There was a warning.
He
And
said,
what's- and what-
he told no.
Is
He
there
was talking
something all
to
this
the
Blue
man.
Lives Matter shit I was hearing somebody saying, or is that just rumor?
I just think that we need to redefine and retool what and how police officers are taught, right?
For
You
sure.
know, if
That is
you
definitely-
can't have a meaningful conversation with somebody to talk them out of whatever situation they're in, you're in the wrong job. If you're afraid in 15 seconds and in less than a second, then you're in the wrong job.
So
Yeah, that's
Blue lives are not a thing. Blue lives being a cop is a choice.
you can't.
That's the thing. Like, as sign, nobody told your scary ass to be a cop.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a choice. And if you can't not be afraid rolling up on the spot and change jobs, bro.
And another thing is they look at us in a different way. They look at us as more dangerous.
Sure.
And they look at other people. I mean, perfect example, and this doesn't even have to do with a cop, but I think when it comes to people who are white, I was at this work event doing that was like a Habitat for Humanity thing. So we're working on, a couple of houses in a neighborhood, and there were two girls. I saw them as teenage girls having a conversation. It wasn't a heated conversation, but it was a lot of hand movement. There was a lot of this and that. I wasn't paying attention to it because I'm like, oh, they're just over there talking. One of my coworkers comes over and goes, oh my gosh. I was like, what? What's wrong? She's like, those women over there are about to fight. And I was like, what women? She's like, over there. I was like, those girls over there, the ones that are just talking? She's like, yeah, they've been circling each other and like using their hands. And like, I can tell they're about to get into it. Like they're about to fight. And I'm like, no, I promise you they're not. They're teenage girls just having like, a conversation. But it's like they perceive us in such a completely different way.
Agreed.
It's like anything we do seems violent to them. So it's like, oh.
Department of Justice did a study of police officers, and it showed obviously there is a subconscious bias, right? We are perceived as 10 to 15 years older than what we are, right? So imagine being a 10-year-old black kid perceived to being 20. That's what happens to Tamir Rice. That's why he's dead. The cop thought he was a grown man, even though we know what a young kid looks like.
He looks like a
do us that
baby.
way.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen this video, and I'm not sure if it's going to show up in the podcast, but I'm going to show it anyway because we should probably see it.
What video is it?
Oh, I have seen this.
I haven't seen this one.
I am sorry. I told him that twice.
What do you notice as you watch these?
They're not dying.
No one's reaching for a gun.
Nobody's scared. There is
Yo,
a
what is
kid
the ninja?
naked
Listen to this one.
person sitting-
Listen to this one.
What the fuck was
Listen to
that?
this one.
There's a knife in his hand?
Yes, he did.
Oh, yeah, knife, but all of a sudden.
Pick up a knife.
So a grown man has a knife.
Got it.
And you're not even reaching for your gun, but a teenage girl has a knife. Let's
No,
just kill it.
grown man has a knife coming at you, not even.
Exactly.
This is the one. This one right here is the one. This is the one.
Did he just take the baton?
Yes, he did. And gets
Yeah.
in the police car
Car.
and drives away.
Oh my
He did that.
freaking goodness.
I'm
Wow.
gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna stop sharing.
I mean, they're all ready to just tussle and do whatever they can to de-escalate, but as soon as they see a
It's
brown
because they
kid,
see the humanity in another white person. That's what it is.
Yep, that's the difference.
Mhm.
So it's harder.
Anybody who was like she had a knife or she was going to kill like the other girl or whatever, I'm like that. Like,
Right.
they're police officers, right? This is the shit that they sign up for. Like,
I agree.
What is she, a ninja? Is she really gonna like do some acrobatics and slice all those throats at one time in like a matter of seconds? So you just have to kill her? Like, come on. She didn't have to die. They
There's
could have
definitely
sprayed
alternatives.
her. They could have, used.
So
let's
there
use her,
are.
they could have
This
used
is
rubber.
why black people don't call the police.
Not
Right,
me.
even when we're in trouble.
Someone has to be dying before I can call cops. Like you have to be
Yeah,
on your
yeah,
own.
see?
I was
Should-
watching.
should we call the police?
I was
Look,
watching.
we need help.
What?
If I think you might die, I'm still not calling the police. You have to be actively dying for me to call the police.
Actively dying.
Hold on. So no, Teal, you're a social worker. Like, when do you recommend calling the police?
Never.
Wow.
And listen, I mean, first of all, if a police officer can't disarm a 15-year-old child, then they can't disarm an adult. Like, they shouldn't be a police officer, first of all. And I think officers are not trained to do like primary aggressor assessments. So, I work with queer folks, and often they're assessing who is the darker skinned person, and they arrest that person because they're in queer relationships, often two men, or they'll just arrest both of the people and put them in the same cell. I've had clients that were severely beaten and just put in the same cell as their abuser. So it's just, they just see people and they're just like, no, we're just going to put you all in there. They're not thinking like, oh, I need to think about this more or whatever. They don't care. And they're not trying to like help anyone, like especially not in New York. I mean, everywhere. But like the NYPD aren't sitting there being like, how can we help people?
No.
It would be a very rare experience where I would be like, you should probably call the cops. Like, never.
Yeah, people who have empathy generally
Serve has a
don't
whole different
become
meaning than
police
that.
officers.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: 21-year-old, 12-week class, and you're a cop. You get a badge and a gun at 21 years old, or 18 in some jurisdictions. 12-week class, you got a 2-week gun training, 10 weeks on basic law, and now you're a cop.
13th grade. That's what someone told me. Like, that's how they describe being a cop is like 13th grade. Like, if you were cool,
like warriors instead of public service.
Want to keep that going, you want to feel important and special. Okay. I'll be a cop now.
Do you think we're going to see any meaningful reform?
Yes. I think that we're going to end qualified immunity in some way, shape, or form. Even the rebuttal that Tim Scott came up with, where people will be able to sue the police department versus the individual cop, I think that'll be a big deal. If the Democrats get behind that, it makes a difference.
You mean sue the individual cop versus the police department?
So here's the thing. So ending qualified immunity wholesale would mean that people would be able to sue police officers in situations like Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, and stuff like that, and go after them and basically.
I think it was the opposite. Yeah. Okay.
So now you can sue. He's proposing a counter of being able to sue the police department where they were trained, making the cop liable for $25,000, and then the police department for whatever you can get them for. I think you should end it all together, and cops should be required to hold professional insurance like every other professional.
That's the best idea I've heard. The insurance one is really good.
Sense because if you can't get licensed and bonded, you should not be a cop. Look, I'm a lowly personal trainer. I gotta have insurance. So
yeah.
You gotta have insurance, right?
My cousin moves and hauls trash. Like, he has to have insurance. He's got
some sort of character and fitness requirement. Like, to be a lawyer, they will call your third grade teacher to find out if you were a decent human being back then in order for you to be licensed to practice law. But in order to carry a gun and supposedly protect and serve a community, that's not required. No, someone needs to be digging in their background.
So I just feel like the whole system is built though on like such a corrupt. It's just so hard to change a system that's so corrupt. Like, we used to go
them being slave catchers.
Yeah, like we used to go and try and train these cops to like be decent enough to like ask people their preferred name. Like, that's not even like hard. and they would just, they're like, nobody cares. Like it's like impossible. Like there's no humanity in there. Like I just don't even know how you go about changing a system like that, because there's such a level of like inhumanity going on that like you have to like rebuild it in a completely different way. At least that's like my personal opinion.
Mhm.
But you know, like, because it was founded on something so awful that like it can't be like done in a way that makes sense, at least in my opinion. But
It
I
would
know.
probably have to completely be redone, right? We'd have to wholly think about the way we think about law and order, right? We'd have to change, excuse me,
Yeah, but the
the way
hard
we
part
think
is
about law and order.
there are other parts to go along with it, right? You know, our
Yeah.
the Second Amendment is a tremendous part of our law enforcement, right?
And other countries
You
don't
know,
have that, right? And that's
exactly.
yeah.
So you know, I am a person of either 100% of the people, regardless of their station in life, should have a gun, or no one. It's got to be
Yeah.
one or the other, right? You can't have it where, oh, you're disqualified for having a gun because you're crazy. You're disqualified because you're a wife beater. I don't care about none of that. Either people can have guns or they can't. Because if everyone's got a gun, then you're gonna second guess fucking with people when you're in the street. Because you don't know if they care or not.
Some people give no
Some
fuck.
people don't. But
There are so many people who are ignorant and don't care. This
but that I think that, you know, I had this debate with one of my less melanated friends, and he said, you know, he thinks that the reason that you don't see cops messing with white folks as much is because they think that they all carry guns.
Really?
no.
I'm just
Is that
telling
what it
you.
is?
I'm just telling you what he said.
Easy cop
But he
out,
thinks
but
the reason
okay.
is.
The Capitol riot like pulled back all the bullshit. We know the vibes. Like,
Bruh, I saw the cops. Did you see the report today where they said the cops told them don't mess with anybody unless they're an
They
anti-Trump
were
supporter.
anti-Trump. That's
Did
what
you
I was
see
just
that
talking
today?
about. Yeah, that's who they were looking for. Were anti-Trump people who were going to cause trouble. That Second Amendment point's a really good one, though, Walter. Like, we have so many guns in this country. Like,
More guns than people.
have to have guns, right?
We have
I was
legit
gonna say,
more guns
like,
than
you know,
people.
other countries' cops don't have guns, but then like other countries don't have the Second Amendment, right? So,
Yeah.
like, no one has an almost unfettered since Heller, right? And particularly since McDonald, like almost an unfettered right to like have a gun just because like you're born, right? That's basically what they're saying. Like,
but
there's
it's
like
considered a
no
right in certain cultures in our country. It's a right to own a gun. Right? That's my right, and that's it. I mean, like I said, either everybody has it or no one does.
What I was that's so funny. You were talking about this. I know we're veering off a little bit. It was probably a good way to end the segment because we're like a half hour anyway. The founder of Black Guns Matter, is Sir Madge Touré. It's a really good idea. I got a friend who he's black. He's a pretty big time lawyer, has a bunch of, you know, now he's making a decent salary. So like he's got a bunch of guns and like he goes to gun ranges and like all these Trump loving white guys are like, man, you got some good guns or whatever. And then like he's like at the gun range, apparently just obliterating targets with, you know, high power guns he just bought. And they're like, you shot the shit out of that target, man. He's like, they like Trump just a little bit more than they like guns, but it's really close. And he's like, yeah, he's like inside, he's like, Black Guns Matter.
Oh yeah, if Black people got guns, if we all got guns, gun laws would change.
Gun laws would change.
They did that already.
Drastically.
They did that. Remember, that's why Huey Newton got killed.
Exactly.
So I've heard elimination of qualified immunity. I've heard insurance. I've heard all of us should have guns. I think this is a pretty productive segment. We came out of it with solutions also. Do we have any other commentary? Because we can keep going if you want to about Black people being hunted down by agents of the state.
How about the state?
You just have to enforce policy that not de-incentivizes like them to carry on the way they've been doing. Like there has to be consequences, even
Some sort of
down
like
to
electroshock therapy or something like that.
Something like you can never be a police officer ever again.
Yeah,
If-
you shouldn't. You should have to lose your job.
If
Yeah.
Exactly. There should
When
be
you're
no, like,
suspended
you don't have
or
the right to
terminated.
like keep getting money. Like, I could do the smallest, tiniest mistake at my job, and maybe, like, let's say I do something and I cost the company $500,000. I could lose
And
my job immediately, and nobody in the financial sector would ever hire me again. But if you're a cop, you kill somebody, it's like, okay, just go to your desk.
Gold star.
Everything
Collect the
is
paycheck.
fine. Okay, you
No,
lost
the,
your job. Just
the
relocate and go to
payouts,
another city and you'll get one.
the payouts nationally, I don't need, this shit's probably hundreds of millions of dollars, but
Yeah.
they treat it like a cost of doing business. So you know what
Yeah.
the fucking business is tearing our asses up, and it's just like it's baked in to the budget.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is why they have that, like, there's a set amount of what a family can receive if they lose a loved one due to police brutality.
Yeah.
The fact that that is
But
like
that's
set
only-
in the
that's the-
budget is proof that they know it's a problem. So, like, why don't you come up with a solution for the problem, as opposed to being like, all right, well, we know cops are going to kill a certain amount of families this year. So let's just put aside.
Because to that,
Oh no.
it's not the problem. It's the goal. It's the modus.
That's exactly.
They're protecting.
It's a problem for us.
the
To
police
them, it's
officers.
not a problem. That is the goal. Like, from our perspective, we see it as a
I
problem.
don't know. I think $27 million hurt Minneapolis just a little bit.
Good,
It's
and that needs to
possible.
keep hurting.
I think.
Yeah.
I think that.
But it not enough, because another man was
Exactly.
killed like
It's
2
Yeah.
months ago.
Right. So
Yeah.
here's the thing.
Like, it's
So
just
she-
like it doesn't
this woman-
I just feel like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like
She made,
it matters to the families who lose their loved one.
Absolutely.
Like, that is irreplaceable.
absolutely.
Obviously, I'm preaching the choir, but you know what I mean, is like, it doesn't matter to the people who are the murderers. Like, they're
No,
and
they
people
felt
are
like they were
drawn
doing
to those positions because they're
Yeah.
drawn to the power of
Yeah.
abusing the power. It's true for rapists, it's true for murderers, it's true for people who like to abuse children. Like,
Mhm.
they're drawn to those positions for those reasons, and they're not like weeded out. And
No.
so there's no restrictions. They can do that. It's just like, so
I agree. I think that there are other things in that George Floyd bill, like having the national database for cops.
Yeah.
If they fuck up,
Yeah.
you can't get hired at another agency.
Although
Yeah.
they're supposed to kind of sort of have
Look
that
at-
now, they just don't update it, right? It's like they
Look at-
depend upon the local registries. So the federal database would still depend upon local registries, and that would mean they would have to update the database, and a lot of local
They're
places.
not gonna do
doing
that.
they don't even
Yo,
update
look-
their own stuff.
They
Like,
can't,
they're
like,
not
the
their
United
cases.
States
Yeah.
can't even keep track of like how many
Look at this
sheriffs
police trainer on
there
this
are in
video.
the country. Like, it's not
Do you
tracked.
see this?
What?
Look at this police trainer on this video.
You should share your screen. I saw that, but you should share your screen.
You saw that?
Yeah, that's wild. He's been doing it. He trains the military too. He goes wild.
Best sex ever after shooting somebody? Is that how we
Yeah.
train?
What did
Pretty
he say?
sadistic.
I didn't see the
He
video.
said after like you shoot a suspect or something, you go home and have the best sex ever.
They have the best sex ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that
that alone should get you fired.
Like the pathology of that shit.
You're a sociopath. Like, you're
Right.
but we
It's
can't.
encouraged.
But see, I can't paint all cops with that brush because both my parents are cops, right?
But he's training cops.
That's
you know
the
what I'm
thing.
saying?
That's
He's
the problem.
a
He's
trainer for cops.
training.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I get you. I believe it. My next door neighbor is a 30-year state trooper. He said in his 30-year career, he's never drawn his gun once.
Yeah, that should be like
Yeah. I think
that
state
should be the
troopers are
norm, right?
though-
Like
I always kind of separate state troopers from cops, even though they're in law enforcement. I don't hear too many things about people having issues with state troopers.
I have a
I'm
positive.
wondering
You want
if
to
they're-
avoid-
State troopers
listen,
could be
the
bitch
state
too. I have a
troopers are the ones
positive
that
impression.
influence
Yeah,
the
it's,
majority
how
of the
often
time.
do we hear about state troopers just randomly killing people?
But they're well, the lady who killed Terrence Crutcher while his hands
Yeah,
are up on the
yeah.
outside of his car.
Eddie Shelby.
Yeah.
Yeah, her
And you know what she's doing now?
collecting the freaking
Collect
pension.
money, collecting a check.
Training cops on what they need to do after they shoot and kill a suspect.
Yep.
How to deal with the
Wow.
media,
And he
the
wasn't even a
psychological
suspect.
aspect.
What's
It's like,
bananas
doing-
is
Should you
he
cry?
wasn't even a suspect.
no, he wasn't a
Wasn't
suspect.
even a suspect. His car broke down in the middle of the road. He wasn't a
Yeah.
suspect.
Yeah, I don't like cops. Don't do that.
You know, I just
Mm-mm.
I'm just I'm kind of it's a sensitive touch for me because, like I said, my mom was a federal law enforcement and a cop in the military. My dad cop in the military, and then he also government cop working at HUD. So you know, there are good people, right, who just happen to be police officers. The question is, how do you see other human beings? And I think, Teal, you hit it, is some people absorb the power, and that's what they want. Whether they're whatever kind of abuser they are, whether they're a cop, whether they're whatever. And the question is, how do we absolve our law enforcement of those type of people, or create a hiring way to hire the right people for that kind of job?
And
Because
it's the Stanford prison experiment where you put some people
Yeah.
as the guards and some people as the inmates,
Yeah.
and you put them in these categories and they play their parts, you
They
know?
do.
Some
Yeah.
people have the power and some people don't, and people love to have the power and love to get fucking high off that
Yeah.
and just run with it. And if you have a propensity for that, like you're gonna go with that. Obviously there's people that won't do that, but you know, I think that's kind of rare, frankly.
All right. Well, I'll stop recording. We can continue talking, but that was 35 minutes.